G'day everyone and welcome to the Insight NBA show. I am Matty G, joined by the man, the captain, the 4-1 Razor, Skid Master. How are you, Skiddy?
I'm fantastic, G. Yeah, going really, really well. I've learned a little thing, and I'm going to tell the viewers what I've learned today, and I think it's a nice little life hack. Do you ever have sausage rolls from the servo?
Love sausage rolls. My favorite.
And you know how when you put the sauce on the sausage roll and like you bite into it and it flakes off and all the sauce comes off because it's all so flaky?
Yeah.
Gee, turn the sausage roll upside down so then the flat part is on the top. The sauce just sits on top of it and it's more crust. So then the sauce doesn't crack off and the sauce is there the whole time. No.
Thank God you're better at fantasy. I'm a sausage roll guy. I take that off and then I just go straight onto the meat with the sauce too. I eat it as a separate entity. I separate church and state. Well, look, if you don't like that,
I can see that though.
I do like my pastry. I'm a pastry boy. But if you don't like our advice on pastry, sausage rolls, or pies, you are going to love this one. Skiddy, tell us what the people are in for. You wanted to do a couple of episodes on these guys. Talk us through them.
Yeah, Jay. So I think it's a really big thing to bring up is the specialist categories. So guys that are really, really good and outstanding in a certain category later on that you can get in drafts. So, you know, you're talking about guys that can get you high rebound stats late in the draft, high blocks, high points. They can be hard to come by once all the superstars come off the board. We're going to help you tonight figure out where you can target them and how much you should be bringing them up your draft list to be able to target these categories when you do not have them and you need them in your team.
You do need them, and you need to know the names that are coming up at you right after this.
They're playing basketball.
It's time to strap in and get ready. The Insight NBA team is in the arena, bringing you the ultimate play-by-play on who's hot and who's not to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now hooping with your hosts, Matty G, Skiddy, and Mally for the Insight NBA show.
Let me just start by saying this one I'm incredibly pumped for because these are names that we talk about. And I think when we talk about specialists, there's going to be a lot of parity talk, Skiddy, you know, with guys that we've mentioned already in shows and maybe why we're so high on them. It's almost like vindication for why we might have these takes on guys. Number one for me, I'd love you to talk us through this list because you put this list together. I just threw some extra names on. You were so like, Matty, I'm doing it. Points.
Yeah.
Man, why are points so important?
Well, the points are so important because they're so hard to come by later on in the draft. Because when you think points, you think the superstar, you think the number one guy on the team. You know, you think guys like Jason Tatum, you think like Donovan Mitchell, you're thinking Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid. They're the guys that give you the most amount of points that you're going to be able to get from a team. But where are you going to be able to find guys that
first 15 picks? First 15 picks, all the guys you said, I'm like, they're off the board. First 15, done.
Exactly right. When we look at the points leaders from last year, G, we got Luka, Giannis, Shea. Jalen Brunson's one that kind of is going a little bit further down, around about the 30s that you can get. He was at about 28 points per game last year. But when we're looking at guys that you can get late in drafts, what you have to scroll right down. We're getting to Cam Thomas, Kyle Kuzma territory. They were 26th and 27th points per game last season. And they do have their deficiencies in other ways. But that's where you got to kind of look to yourself, gee, let's use Cam Thomas, for example, right? Cam Thomas last year was about what? I think he was the 180th best player in fantasy last season.
Around that way? Bring that up.
Now, yep. And now in drafts this year, he was getting drafted around that 100 mark. But now we've seen him skyrocket in the last couple of weeks. He's been around the 80s, 70s. We saw him get picked in the 60s.
It was like 58, 56 the other day. We saw him. Was it 58?
Right. I think it was
crazy.
50. Yeah, it was high 50s. But why, G? Why are we taking the 184th player last year that high? And yes, it is because points. You're not getting points that late in drafts.
Hashtag has him at 113th last year, finishing after 66 games. Atrocious. By the way, and this is coupled as well. You need to know when these guys are point specialists like this one. Okay, the guy last year, 22.5 points a game. Very, very good. Plus 20 points. Like 20 points is like those scorers evaporate in your draft, like you said, around a point in time. But you can, as you said, like the first 15 picks, if you look through the names, this is the names of the best scorers in the NBA last year. Joel, Luka, Giannis, Shea, Brunson, like you said, Durant, Booker, Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, De'Aaron Fox, Steph Curry, Jokic, Tyrese Maxey, Anthony Edwards, Trae Young, LeBron, Kyrie. The next one on that list in only 9 games was one of the guys that is going to be on our list. And this first list of names, I'm teasing. That's a teaser for the list that we're about to put on the screen. But the point is, like you said, Skiddy, these guys go off, and these are all first, second round picks. So all the names that we're saying. So then there's like this, like, oh shit, I got my guys. First couple of rounds, they're off. And people start to do their punt strategies and their builds. And so there is a bit of a vacuum at a point, 4 points, guys. And the name that I was about to say was Ja Morant. In his 9 games last year, unfortunately, only 9, he was at 25 points a game. So he was the last one on that 25-point cutoff. And then it goes down to AD, Lillard. Again, top 20 guys in fantasy. So they're off the ball. And then you start getting other dudes in there. But take us through this list of the dudes you put together, mate.
Yeah, so these are the guys that I see when they're a bit out of proportionate of their placings of where that you can get them for points. Jaylen Brown is going around the 50s mark, and it's not even like early 50s. I've been seeing him almost drop to the 60s. And this is a guy that was averaging 20, what was he averaging last year? 23 points per game. So he's in the higher echelon of scorers. When we're talking about scoring as well, Jay, like, we have to remember as well, Luka Doncic was averaging 34, right? That's outrageous, and it was 4 points higher than Giannis, who was in second. Also, too, Joel Embiid was around about 34 as well, but he didn't make the cutoff. But we know that Joel, for his sake, was in there as well. But then, guys can't drop off. They start to bunch up around that 25 mark, and then we kind of get them around. A lot of guys around that 22, 21. The average points average points for a player in fantasy is, I think it's around the 16 to 18 mark. So anything over that is classified as good. And I think these are guys that we can look at, Jeev, that were better, obviously more points guys. And I think they can do it again. Jalen Green, I think he's the number 1 scorer in Houston this season. Cam Thomas, I think everyone knows he's going to be the number 1 scorer and only scorer in Brooklyn. It's going to be Poole or Kuzma. Last year was Kuzma. I think Poole might be able to do a bit more this season. If we get Ja Morant back healthy, and Jalen Green around about the 100 mark. Cam Thomas is dropping way too much, but if we can get him around the 80s, I'm happy with that. Poole's going around 90, which is pretty good value to be able to get a point scorer there. Same as Kuz. Barrett's going around 100. I think he could be the top scorer for Toronto, maybe besides Quickly. Sexton and Simons both have been good in the past. Theirs is a little bit up in the air, and it makes it a little bit hard. If they get the minutes, then they will be. They will definitely be on. Ja Morant. Now, Ja is a tricky one, Matty G, because Ja can go anywhere from. I've seen him go
35. I've seen him around 35.
Yep, but he could also go around 50 because we have to remember Ja's. The reason why people reach for him in fantasy is because of his scoring. He's actually not that good as a category league player. He's better points league, but seeing as he can get the high scoring and high assists, hence why we go a bit earlier on Ja. So when you're looking at these guys and you might look at last season's rankings and you go, why are they getting picked so highly? It's because it is bloody hard to be able to find point scorers around this mark. When you look past 100, G, what guys are getting you that plus 17 point scores?
Yeah, you're not. No, and look, that's like the marker for like the last points. Like you kind of know that they all die around this time. And this is some really interesting information digging into the brand new Yahoo data of like, there's been like 5 weeks now, like their starting point, their week 1, week 2, week 3. We're at like the first month of Yahoo data. And here's for a couple of these guys. Because right now, ranked around the same place is actually Anthony Simons and Jordan Poole, 2 of the guys on the list you put together, mate. And I know that I do this bit a bit different than you, so I dig into this a lot harder than you, whereas you go off the percentages. But this is where they align because Anthony Simons started off around pick 90 in like that's where his ranked was in early ADP data. It's at 90. Sorry, it's at 90. It's gone down to 88. So he's seen a very micro move. So everyone kind of knows you can get Anthony Simons around pick 90. Again, the round before 100 starts to go off the board. By same extension, Jordan Poole started off higher than him. He was at 84, basically 84. He's now gone back to 95, 94 and a half, 95. So Simons is like, oh, it was the upside of Anthony Simons. He's got that boost. Another guy that I like that's not on the list is Jonathan Kuminga, who I think could be possibly around a 20-point scorer this year. And he's about 98. So he's kind of come up a little bit. Whereas guys like RJ Barrett, people are starting to be like, I'm going to get these points. I'm going to get it. And this is where you're like spot on the money. He started off at 108. His ADP data has now come down almost a full round, 8 spots. He's sitting at 100. So this is where around pick 100, then you're starting to look at the guys and they're off the board. The only other guy who's not on this list that I think is a good shout is Jeremy Grant. Now, his initial ranking was 125. It's come down to 110. Why? Because people are clicking on buttons in the draft and sorting by it, looking at the points that are left at 100, and then just basically just taking the bloke. And that's where it sits with him, with that, I reckon. So for me, I reckon you're bang on with that one. Because the other thing is this. You mentioned Ja Morant earlier. We're seeing him go all over the place. In 9 games last year, he came back out like an absolute rocket. But he was cheeky on the assist front last year. And we all know that assists dry up big time. So Ja Morant makes this list again as a good pickup. Take us through these other names on the list, Skiddy.
Yeah, it's a couple of guys that, when I did start to do this list, G, you may see James Harden's name there. He is now getting absolutely belted by fantasy value. He was currently sitting around the 30s, and now he's almost high second round. So we're not worrying too much about Harden because he's probably going where he is. But when we look at statistics-wise, there was only a handful of players. And when I say handful, let's say there was 7. Last year, that averaged over 8 assists. Kay Cunningham was sitting at 8th, and he averaged 7.5. Ahead of him, Tyrese Halliburton was obviously in first. And then Luka, Jokic, Harden, LeBron, Sabonis, Fred Van Vliet. And that's why I think we can get some value here with these guys, Jay. Ja Morant, he was, only the 9 games, but that's all right. He still did average an all right amount of assists to be able to generate them, which was okay. Chris Paul, I feel like he is going to be able to, if he's gone back into a starting role in San Antonio, he's got Wemby. It just makes sense. If he can stay on the court, that is the main thing. Darius Garland had a down year. But when you're looking at assists, he is someone that can definitely generate. We saw him. He was around the 8.5 mark, not last season, the season before. He did have a lot of eye injuries and stuff that kind of held him back last season. So hopefully he can bounce back. But he's a guy that's going, mate, anywhere from 50 to 70 to 80. And he was a guy that was definitely, let's say he was hindered heavily last season. And that showed in his fantasy rank. This season, though, I think there is a chance that he'll be able to bounce back. And people might say, oh, my God, it's because Donovan Mitchell's there. He holds back Darius Garland. Let's not forget, Darius Garland I think he was 30th ranked 2 years ago with Donovan Mitchell in that team.
I have that data here.
Thank you very much. If you want to double check what he was. I know it was higher than what everyone said.
42? 30, 35 or 42. That comes to mind. I'm just guessing. I'm going into look at it now.
Yep. That's 50. Fine. Yes.
He was 50th. He was 50th on one.
And that was averaging 8.5 assists, I believe it was.
I had that on the same one the year before. I'm going between years. I'm in the time travel. You put me in the time travel machine, Skiddy. Yeah, 7.8 assists.
There you go. So that would equate him to be the 8th best assist guy from last season if he can bounce back into that form. But so that's another one to look at there for Darius Garland.
Well, I like Garland because I'm going to preach from the rafters with this one. You know that I like Garland. You know I drafted him a couple of places last year, and I was disappointed by the season that he had. I can tell you now that in the auction mock draft, the analyst auction mock draft the other day, people were paying head over bloody feet to put Darius Garland to grab those because especially in an auction draft, you start to just notice that things go. It's very different if you're in an auction draft. If you're looking for it, if you're hunting for that assist, you're like, oh, shit, I need assist. And if everyone's thinking the same thing at the same time, you will have to pay an absolute premium for guys like that, well over their value, to bring them in. And then you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Or do you lean really hard into a punt that you may not want? Because the year before, he was at 7.8 and he finished on hashtag basketball at the 40th best player on their side. So as you said, Skiddy, very high.
Yeah, and when we look at assists as well, the last guys that we saw, Darius Garland is pretty much the cutoff from most fantasy leagues of being that last main guy that doesn't hinder you heavily in other categories. Draymond Green, we know, does not score points, and there's a good chance that he'll be suspended for half the year. Chris Paul, there is, he's obviously aging, so he probably won't be up the top in games played. Ben Simmons, God knows, but he can definitely generate assists, kills you in free throw, but that's all right. And Dennis Schroeder, got no idea even if he starts in Brooklyn or how much game time he'll play. But if Ben Simmons is out, Schroeder definitely has a chance of being the starting point guard and going off. But so Darius Garland's basically your cutoff of being the last guy, aside if you want to have a genuine crack at Tyus Jones. But that is under the scrutiny if he is starting in Phoenix or gets enough game time to be relevant. We know his assist to turnover ratio is fantastic, but is he going to get enough time to be able to generate those big assist numbers that we need? If not, G, I think the cutoff's Garland, and that's probably why he's now moving higher and higher up draft boards from that 70 where we first saw him to now getting to the high 50s.
And to put it in perspective, guys, around the assist mark for him last year, he was still around 6.5, just below that. Other guys are all draftable. The only late draft pick that was there last year was Trey Jones, who, as you said, Chris Paul pretty much just replaced Chris Paul with Trey Jones, and there's an automatic 6.2 assists. You think that it's Chris Paul's acumen, there's 7.5 alone. So like you said, around the 100 marker, which is where CP3 is going in all ADP data over on Yahoo right now, on similar data, he is all sitting around the same spot. So everyone's kind of got the same vested interest in CP3 around the 100 marker. He's 115 average. He's actually up at 99 on Yahoo. Underdog, he's come up to 103. Fantrax is 107, and he's dropped down to 115 on ESPN. So it's where you can get him around there. You get him.
Yeah, I agree. And the last thing I want to say about the assist is if you're going to have a crack on another guy at assist, we need to get a guy that's above the ahead of the pack. And there's guys that you can get, I've noticed, very, very late in the draft that you probably could have a swing at. Keontae George is one that springs to mind.
Yep.
Scoot Henderson, I've seen go undrafted in some leagues. But you're banking on upkeep from those guys. Terry Rozier is another one as well, landing over in now Miami, which makes it up. But these are guys that are all kind of like you need to see uptick to be able to bring. Mike Conley's the other one as well. So
you've hit. You're hitting guys that we're going to talk about because these are also guys who can help you in another statistical area as well. These are some of our free throw booster guys. You just named them. The slide isn't even in order. I've just jumbled it up because you hit on a couple of the names. But you're right. Guys like Colin Sexton, Keontae George, you see him right there. Scary Terry over in Miami. We don't know what's going to happen with Jimmy Butler. He's slidden all the way back down in drafts, and here's another one of these guys. But we're also talking, when we talk about free throw percentage, Skiddy, I think what's really important there is the variable is like you have to be able to get to the free throw line to impact your score a certain amount of times. It's also such a volatile category. Like we've seen guys like Nick Claxton start off a game. I know he's not a great free throw shooter. This is probably not a good example, but it is because he does volume. And so when Nick Claxton comes into a game and you suck at free throw, and let's say you punted free throw percentage and lose it most weeks, but he walks in and all of a sudden makes 10 of 10. You're laughing. You're 8 of 10, laughing, but he gets a high volume. So volume is the biggest impact there for free throw percentage. So you need these guys who get really high free throw percentage. Yeah, Luke Kennard, he's a really good free throw shooter. Yeah, doesn't even take one fucking game. So of course he makes it because he practices through the bloody week. But guys like Tyler Hero who are elite, Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, these are guys who are all getting to the line 5+ times. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this is where he's elite. He gets to the line almost 10, 11 times a game, and he makes them at 900. So this is where you could literally take on a Dan Gafford maybe with a couple of guys like that in your team. Like you could literally do a pair of Shai and Damian Lillard in your team, who is getting to the line between them 20 times a game to offset that. That's where you can absorb these things. So the guys that can impact free throw percentage, who get to the line enough to help buoy you here during the course of your week, and you can get at a decent price right now. Klay Thompson, Bogdan Bogdanovic, guys like Anthony Simons, we've seen him start to come in some value, Skiddy, but still he gets to the line a lot. Never met a free throw line he didn't like, Anthony Simons. Larry Markkinen, draft stock, dubious. Utah is throwing up we're going to tank again, but they've just thrown the bag at him. It's an undraftable. It's an untradeable contract. Jimmy Butler is someone who really does interest me. I love Jimmy Buckets with where he's falling in drafts, and he's pretty much one of the guys you might be able to make a little bit of a gamble on, and he gets to the line an incredible amount of times. So this is someone that I love to look at and be like, this is someone at value who I can put on my team, but it's also Jimmy Butler. He's a top 25 asset in fantasy at his peak. Let's say he's 30, he's fallen into the 50s, and in the next one, his teammate Rozier, Colin Sexton, we've got Dennis Schroeder there, Benedict Mathurin, madman for the free throw line, lives and dies there. And I slipped Kelly Olynyk onto the list because we all know that he gets a lot of minutes there, but he also gets contact. He's not afraid of it. He's a good distributor of the ball. He has a very good field goal percentage, which can help you there. But he also gets to the line at least 3 times a game. You do that over the course of the week. That's 12 free throws. That buoys you up like one of your best starters. And that's one we can look to because it can be hard to stream that, Skiddy.
Yeah, it can definitely. It's probably almost impossible to stream free throws. In all honesty, that's why I think I've been starting to do this a bit now. G is where I will target Benedict Mathurin as my last pick. I've said it to you before. I think that there's a chance that he still gets starters minutes in Indiana. He can. It's not out of the realms where before he was injured, he was the starter over Andrew Nembhard. I can see this being the possibility again. We know that he loves the free throws. He can score from there as well. If he can get his other bits and pieces up, it's top 100, and you're taking him with your last pick. You have a swing. I reckon there's much, much worse picks that you can do than Benedict Mathurin. So I'm having a crack on that because I reckon his percentage-wise is something that can definitely help later on in drafts, and no one's looking at it.
Look, he's getting to the line. Like I know some sites are saying over 5 times a game, but that's 5 times a game. So that's a high level of occupation at the stripe.
That's a bit too high. Yeah,
that's high, and he's an 830 play. So he's getting to the line even. Like I think hashtag has him at. Here we go.
There was a point, G, where he
6 times. They got him getting to the line at 6 times they've expected. So let's say he gets there at 4.5 or 5. Yeah. So he sits around the same marker. He's at 830. That's pretty good. And that's something you can do. His field goal percentage hurts you. The 17 points, he doesn't do anything else really elite. But if he can get his steals up and contribute across the board and improve, like you said, in Indiana, that's another one. But again, like we said, it's volatile. But field goal percentage, that is a volatile one. In case you draft in some big boys, take us through the big ponies. Let me get the big horse sound effect. Take us through the big horses here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? We haven't heard this one for a little bit. Here it is.
Yeah, the big going off there, mate. Yeah, look, we do have some big dogs here. When we talk field goal percentage players, we're mostly looking at bigs here because all they do is do dunks, which is fine. No dramas there whatsoever. The hard one about this first one is, and it is, you might say that Dan Gafford and Derek Lively. Now, Dan Gafford was averaging 72% from the field last year, G, and I think Lively in less time was pretty close to the same. It was about over 70 as well. That just tells me the Luka Doncic difference. It all depends here on who the hell is going to be the starter or who gets starters minutes. Who gets the most viable one, because either or can be shots. Dan Gafford, we saw last season, G, was, I believe at some points of the year was almost top 40. And Lively was, around the top 80 or so at certain points. But that's why Dan Gafford is now getting drafted around. You could get him anywhere from 90 to 60. He has got a massive swing of ADP. And it's because they're not sure who's going to get the starters minutes. But if Gafford gets it, Gafford's going to be unbelievably good at rebounds, blocks, and percentage.
I think it's the same. I think it's the same. There's 48 minutes of basketball. I think it is the same. And last year, you could see it swing a couple of minutes. It's a minute split. And last year, on average, Daniel Gafford averaged 24 and a half minutes. And surprisingly enough, Derek Lively averaged 23 and a half minutes. That's 48. Yeah. That's the biggest miss. Now, let's say that swings. Let's say it swings and it goes 25 or 26 to Lively, and he's okay, and he gets 25 to 26. I still think Gafford can do damage at the 23 mark, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. But the thing, so Dan Gafford last year was the 39th ranked player per game, right?
Yep.
I know you're saying it was 24 minutes a night, but the thing that then worries me is we have to remember that was in Washington also. He got traded halfway through the year, correct? I'm right.
He did. Yeah. He did get traded. He did get traded.
So
I
he
can
was
go after
playing.
The trade deadline.
What's that?
I'm going to go after the trade deadline. I'm going to deep dive this hard.
Yeah, he was. But so after the trade deadline, G, he only played 21 and a half minutes per game.
Did he?
So he was down. So he played more minutes in Washington than he did in Dallas.
He would have. Here we go. Dallas overall, his minutes. I still like him, Skiddy. You know how high I am on him.
Yeah.
56 played, 21 and a half, and Derek Lively still 19 minutes a game. So he still played more. So let's just say that reverses around.
What does that tell you, though, Jay?
It says that they like playing small ball a hell of a lot still, and that PJ Washington gets centers minutes.
It's actually Maxi Kleber. So there's another name that you got to throw in there. And then if that's down, then they throw in Dwight Powell. They just throw in whichever one they need. So it can be hard there. But either way, that's why Dan Gafford is, so fluctuational. But if he gets the minutes, he's going to be massive in field goal. We then go back to Trace Jackson Davis, who's another one. He did very, very well just because of the Steph Curry effect. I feel like if he gets the start, then we can definitely be looking at Trace. Mark Williams, let's hope his back's fine because, you're playing with LaMelo Ball, then you've definitely got a shot to be able to get good field goal percentage because he requires so much. Now, Zubac is an interesting one for me, G.
Okay. So why is he interesting?
Well,
he made your list and he's interesting.
Yeah, because...
Tell me more.
So Zoo's around the 100 mark, 110. I've seen him even go to 120. This is a great chance of him being rebounds, high field goal. He doesn't kill your free throw either.
Yep.
It's not the worst. And who the hell else is there to play besides Mo Bamba?
Well, I can tell you now. I can tell you now. I think people. Maybe there's 4 people. Actually, there's probably at least 18 people who have listened to this. No, look, there's a lot more. But Zubac started at Yahoo, for example, 108. I have been preaching the goodness of Zoo. I took him again in a draft the other day. His score moved down to 101. So he's already starting to come down around that 100 mark where the guys start to go off the board who started really out there. Even dudes like Chris Middleton who started out there like 130 have come down to that 100 zone now. It almost seems like this invariable barrier, this bubble in your league that if it's like outside, the top 100, you've got to get these guys around there and they just evaporate magically off draft boards. And Zoo is one of those guys. A big horse, big pony, as you said, doesn't hurt your field goal, free throw percentage, rebounds, get some points in there, get some block shots. He's absolutely fantastic and he's great value. And another guy who's going, my man Isaiah Hartenstein, anywhere between, let's say 55, 60, all the way up to like 80 in drafts. Now, he's a guy who's also starting to move around in some of the ADP data as well. He has come from 92 down to 85, basically, in Yahoo leagues, which means there's momentum shifting back there. So, again, there's still, let's say, value if he finishes the season at like the 60th best player, 55th best player, and people are taking 85. That's a good, solid 2 rounds of value getting him. But I still see him being able to contribute decent field goal percentage, blocks, and rebounds, which we'll get into because we do have the defensive one. And we got to give this a plug. The big board. It's loud, it's Patreon, and that's where you can find out where we at, where you rank them and me.
Want to take your fantasy sports game to the next level? Insight Fantasy Sports are bringing you exclusive content all year round, such as preseason draft guides, player rankings, waiver wire advice, statistical deep dives, priority podcast questions, and tons more. So what are you waiting for? Get full access to the experts. Go to patreon.com/Insight Fantasy Sports and subscribe to Insight Unlimited today.
Beautiful.
I mean, it's so good. You and I have both done that.
Yeah. It's an easy one, mate. You get the best ones that you can. Then you come into the Patreon, ask us whatever you need. Any other little bits and questions, we're always around to be able to help when we can.
And thank you very much. And a bit of a shout, because I did tell this bloke that I was talking about him today. Cuz it's Arenda. Cousins Arenda. I hope I'm saying that right. No, I didn't. It's how he spelt it, and I've got a photo to prove it. I've got your question coming up in the next show about schedules that we've got coming up. But we have another show coming up about defensive specialists. So this was the offensive specialist. We've got the defensive specialist one, but we've saved one for last and the offensive specialist because it's something that's really easy to get off the wire, Skiddy, but it's something you can factor into your builds and get some guys who are going to contribute to it easily. And it's 3-point guys. So the guys who are going to boost your 3-pointers in your leagues. Take us through these blokes, Skiddy.
Yeah, so when we go into the threes, guys, we do have some good options that we can get late. Klay Thompson is probably the one that I've noticed the most, where he's been dropping to about 130. It's been outrageous that Clay's been dropping that much. When we know he's going to get the start, we know he's going to get the minutes in Dallas, can be such a good 3-point shooter. And let's not forget, he's playing next to Kyrie and Luka, like the best like shot passing point guard in the league that requires so much attention. And then you're going to have Klay Thompson out on the line. Let's not forget how many times that Derek Jones Jr. had an open 3-point shot that he then could not either hit or pass up. But now we're going to be talking about Klay. Oh, stop it. He's going to absolutely source. I feel like his threes are going to go beautifully up. Tyler Hero's one there as well, G. We know he got injured last season, but he was 12th last year for threes made per game. He was fantastic, and we know that he's going to have to step up again this year. D'Angelo Russell is one that is going to be banking on the LeBron gravitational pull. He averaged about 3 per game last season, which is absolutely fine. That's what kind of boosts him up a bit. He was he was tied 15th last year, so I'm happy with that. And then 2 guys that are a lot tied to their 3-point ranking, and that is Keegan Murray and that is Michael Porter Jr. Now, these guys are just going anywhere and everywhere, all over the joint. Keegan Murray, I am worried about him this season. Yep. Michael Porter Jr., I think I have a bit more faith in just because I know the surety of with Jokic there. But DeRozan comes in. I feel like that hurts Murray a lot. He still will be able to get threes, but because I see places where Keegan Murray is going off the board before Michael Porter Jr. I think that is nuts.
I have a bit of a take on that.
Right, I'm listening.
It's what I do. Yeah, I'm starting to think maybe we're all just a bit sour on him.
I am.
I am. But I mean, what does he do? He gets rebounds.
Keegan or Michael?
What does he do? Keegan. I mean, Michael Porter Jr. MPJ going to MPJ. Someone's going to pay Jonte's legal fees. And make overs and unders for him. So it's probably going to be MPJ. But Keegan Murray, though, I'm a little bit more interested in, to be fair. Like, I'm a little bit more interested in because let's be honest, who else is going to shoot threes in that team?
Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox.
Fox, yeah, okay. Not the best 3-point shooter in the world. I mean, yeah, sure, we could say Keon Ellis.
Whoa. De'Aaron Fox, who was he shot he hit 2.9 threes a game last year, and he was at 36%, which is actually not bad.
It's not good either. If he gets up to 38%, he makes 4 a game. Come back to me, and I'll call him a good free 3-point shooter. He's an improved 3-point shooter. He's an improved 3-point shooter.
That's true.
100%. It's improved, but it's still not great, I would say. Again, and I love Swiper, but I'm not going to give him flowers for not being like Steph Curry great at threes, because then again, nobody
You're being a hard ass. You're being a hard ass.
I'm being a hard ass because Malik Monk also, he might make him, but he also misses a shit ton of them. You know, so this is
they're also off the dribble. Keegan Murray just has to stand there and get the ball and then hit it. He doesn't take moving ones.
Okay, and who loves to penetrate and kick the ball? Who did it in San Antonio? Who did it in Chicago? DeMar DeRozan.
Okay.
So DeMar's, that's what is in his game. So that's something that's very close to him. So that's going to be a thing for DeMar. That's going to be a thing for Sabonis because he doesn't take them or very good at them. So the guy who's left starting in the starting lineup, who's going to be like, look, just get your ass. It's kind of like me in 2K. Matty, just do what you can and stand in the corner and then green that shit. That's Keegan Murray's job. So I actually can see a world where Keegan Murray could be making anywhere between 2.5 to maybe 3.5, 4 threes a game. I truly give you up to 3.5 a game. Maybe.
If he gets to
definitely say 3.
If he gets to 3, then yeah, I can be a bit more interested. But if he just hits a 2.5, I don't really give a shit. In all honesty, I need more out of him. Just because I think there's going to be a lot of ball movement on this squad to be able to generate the offense that they have to be able to generate. And yeah, Murray's, a lot of time he's at the end of the chain. If he doesn't shoot well, then what else does he do, G?
He gets some rebounds and he can give you some free throw percentage in the best day. But again, like I said, this is why we don't have to worry about these guys because you can get this kind of stuff off the waiver wire. There's guys like Dante DiVincenzo who are out there on the late in drafts too, who people will pick up and pull in and drop off. There's guys like this around. Malik Monk, like you said Malik Monk. Well, cool. He's good for a couple of threes a game. He's a waiver wire ad. So this is why you can stream these guys, like we said, in late, but you don't have to stress it too much. You can get them around these middle or late rounds who contribute. Also, a lot of 20-point game scorers like Tyler Hero, who are good at threes, they don't just magically appear on the waiver wire. So we pick them up, like you said, Skiddy. We get them, we pull them in, we use them, or we trade them, and we get better assets. But it's the defense that intrigues us, and that's in the next video, mate.
Yeah. Absolutely, mate. Pleasure doing offense with you. Hopefully this was able to help out some guys and be able to clear up why some players are getting drafted higher than others on where, certain ADP, stats have them or where their certain rank was able to have them, because I know a lot of people would get confused of why certain people are getting drafted above other certain people when their rank is a lot higher than theirs, but this is why.
Amen. Hey, make sure you like and subscribe to this one so you can get the defense one and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we'll see you soon. Bye.